So this $5 planter to date is our most watched video, and I definitely understand why. I'm looking for ways to cut costs. We are all in the same boat, and so I definitely understand why it is such a big deal to watch a video that is claiming that you can have a large planter for $5 without using any tools. In this video, I want to give you a real look at what this bed is currently looking like, how I plan on changing the design for the better, and what I plan on doing differently next time. We received a ton of feedback on this planter, stuff that people would definitely not do, but also just so much gratefulness for this idea, just to be able to have something that they could use to start gardening. Or if they had a space and they couldn't afford a bed, this was the solution, and they were just so grateful for it. I heard each one of those comments, from I would not use plastic in that, to decorating the outside differently with burlap, to those type of things would not grow well in there. Appreciate all the feedback. I think it all has value. We have had so much success growing in this bed. This bed honestly just offers a ton of growing space. I cannot even tell you how many plants are growing in this bed right now that, as you can see, are very happy. I believe that this bed is definitely worth the effort that it took, which wasn't much effort. I would honestly create this bed 100 times over because it has come through for everything that we needed this bed to be. There is easily anywhere from 30 to 50 plants growing inside of this bed. So many different varieties, from berries to tomatoes to herbs like catnip and basil. There are also other herbs, different types of basils like lemon basil, purple basil, and Genovese basil. I planted so many different varieties of herbs inside this bed alongside our marigolds and our sunflowers, and they all really loved it in this bed. I now know that all of these different types of plants and variations work really, really well together. They loved being next to each other. They didn't have any problem. There was only one thing that I had to take out of this bed. Our rosemary did not appreciate being in this bed at all. And one of the reasons why it did not appreciate being in this bed was this bed had a tremendous amount of moisture that was held in this bed. It did not easily dry out, which was another really, really great benefit to having this bed. I also believe that because of the amount of basil in this bed, it really helped the mosquitoes in this area. Our mosquitoes were so horrible last year in the front of our property, but this year it's like night and day. Our tomatoes also produced so well inside of this bed. So the biggest change I'm going to be making to this bed before the next spring season is to remove the plastic. So here is a very raw look at the bed. As you can see, this is exactly what it looks like in real life. Yes, it's overgrown, but in a very wonderful kind of way. Lots of things going to seed, which is really great. We will have so many fun surprises popping up next spring. I believe this is the Thai basil. Oh my goodness, so beautiful. Check out the root on this tomato. That is serious. That's the thickest tomato root that I've ever seen. And so that goes to show that tomatoes really love this bed. That is one thick root. So the soil did drop just as I expected. It dropped about how much ever this is. It's about 4 inches. So the soil dropped about 4 inches, which I did expect for the soil to drop since we put a lot of filler at the bottom. And so I wanted you to see what that looks like. So that is the space that I just pulled the tomatoes from. You couldn't even see from the outside that the soil had dropped and that the liner was exposed. And so, but now that I've pulled the tomatoes out, you can see that. I did not one time have to come out here and try to make this look better or try to fix it in any way. It has stayed just like this, which I really loved. I loved how neat and tidy it continued to stay and look. This weed fabric was very inexpensive to use, but it definitely did the job. So many of you guys suggested burlap fabric, which would be great as well. Right now with these prices, if you're considering doing this bed, the weed fabric is actually going to be substantially lower than burlap right now. I use burlap fabric for our shade cloth in our greenhouse, and a roll of that costs $36, I believe. This fabric is definitely budget friendly and such a great way to get a look that looks very nice and very put together, but it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. So I would say the difference between, say, this and burlap fabric, well, one of the differences would be that this is by far way thinner and way more fragile than burlap. For example, this hole right here, nobody claimed this, by the way. Nobody said, hey, I poked a hole in the bed outside. And this happened probably like a week after we installed this. And so it happened pretty quickly. Nobody claimed it. They know who did it. But I'm sure it was just an accident. Either a bicycle might have fell on this, or, I mean, so many things could have happened without being malicious, right? And so some accident happened here, but it's been this very same size since a week after we installed it, and it hasn't ripped any further, and it's really not super noticeable. I mean, I brought you down here to see it, but in the general scheme of things, this is actually the only hole inside of this fabric. Because it's black, you can see the dust. The thing about that is it's very easy to spray off when you are watering the bed, so that's pretty much a non-issue. So the berries that we have planted in this bed is one of the things that I plan to change. I'm actually going to take the berries out of this bed. But as you can see, it's not because they didn't do well. It's just because it's pokey, and I would prefer for it to be somewhere where just berries are. We're not like reaching in to get basil or other herbs, because it's just too much of a hazard to reach your hand in and get poked by a white blackberry vine, which, as you can see, has thorns. And so that is the reason why I'm planning to remove this berry out of this bed. As far as the green stalks that are up here, I'm actually debating removing all of the strawberries and finding a new spot. I think one of these years we are going to be successful as far as finding the perfect spot for our strawberries. The perennial garden that we want to create will probably be the best place for these strawberries. I would love to just fill the whole green stalk, both of them, up with lettuce, so all types of leafy greens. I feel like the pest pressure would be better, it would be less. I could come out of our front door and pick fresh greens right from the green stalk. Now, I don't know if I am going to end up leaving our green stalks in the front of our house, or if they're going to be a part of our container garden, so we'll just have to see how our plans unfold. But I have loved them being in the front. I just think they add such fun character to our what we are calling our window garden. So everything in the front we can actually see from our window. Our front window is at least 20 feet long, and so it makes it so fun to look outside and to see what's growing. From our window, we are able to see all of the planters in front of the window, as well as the green stalks and our $5 planter. And so that is really, really cool. I did pull out some tomato plants today from in front of the window. We do still have several peppers growing up here though. I know so many of you were talking about trying out these file cabinet planters, and I always encourage you that you definitely should, because they are still holding up so perfectly. I would definitely recommend it. Last fall season we had spinach growing, and that was really cool and I really loved it. They didn't really take off until the beginning of spring though, and so I'm trying to think what we would want to plant up here for the fall, because it's such a large area. I definitely want to plant something here that will bring so much beauty to the front of our home. It is really nice though that I have no reason to pull out these peppers. They get to stay as long as they want and grow and produce food for our family. I really love being able to encourage people with us growing food right outside of our door. You don't have to have a huge amount of space in order to have a beautiful space and actually produce food for you and for your family, which is so awesome. Like, I never knew that. I thought that I would need a ton of space in order to produce food, but just outside of our window, we are producing so much food for our family. And if I'm being honest, it's so much easier to come right outside the front door and get food than to walk to the garden, even though it's not really that far away. I do truly believe that it's possible to have beauty and function within the same space. I'm so excited about picking the seeds from this sunflower right here. I think that's going to be so fun. It is our biggest sunflower head for sure. And a really cool thing that I learned just today is how beneficial sunflowers are and why it's important to completely take up all of it, including the roots, whenever you are finished with your sunflower, because it draws all of those toxins out of the soil and into the roots. And so unlike other plants that we let the roots break down into the soil, we want to remove those roots because they hold all of the things that we don't want in our soil. I just thought that was such a cool thing. Oh my goodness, nights like this make my heart just so happy to walk over here to the garden as the sun is setting, and just to behold the beauty that we worked hard to create with our own hands. Like, it just hits so different. Some tea. So Thomas recently built this really cool structure to hold wood out here. I think it's so beautiful, as well as our compost pile, looking nice and modern. Absolutely love it. Thank you guys so much for joining me in the window garden today. I do hope that you loved this video and appreciate the update on the $5 planter. Definitely let me know down below.